Oh, and we're live. There we go. Yay! I wasn't paying attention and I just threw my phone across the room. Hold on.
Great way to start.
My bad, guys. Welcome to the first round of this new BAA. This really needs to open this headset, I swear. I apologize, guys. We're having testicular difficulties over here. Okay, so listen, we're trying to see how things work here with I like the idea of these little rounded bubbles. It's very cutesy and I like it. If they don't work, they don't work. We'll see once Shay pops in. We're currently just wait. Oh, speaking of the devil.
Perfect timing.
Hi, Shay.
Hi. Sorry, my phone was giving me problems.
Oh
You are
no.
perfectly fine. And whoa. There we go. I just noticed the picture popped back up when it switched us like that. Okay. Again, like I said, we're having testicular difficulties. But hi, guys, and welcome to our first round. We'll start the whole intro back over. Welcome to the first round of BAA. I apologize for all the testicular difficulties, but I figured we could just go around, introduce ourselves, maybe give your starting rating. I will say, I'll go ahead and start. I currently do not have a starting rating right now. I'm trying to wait until after all of our discussion because I am currently sitting anywhere between a 2-star and a 4-star. So there's some conversations that I want to have, and I want to know how I feel about said conversations at the end. I feel like it could go one of two ways here. Okay. So I will kick it off to my gal Hope to introduce
Okay.
herself first.
Well, hi, I'm Hope from It's Hope's Books, and this book was actually my recommendation for BAA.
Oh, book,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah.
I read it on audiobook, so I don't have a physical copy.
Fair. And this was a reread for me. So I'll start with my original rating and then what my rating is after reading it now. So when I first read it, it was 5 stars. I loved it. Now I think it's like a 4. Mainly because since I read it the first time, I've grown up more. I have more life experience and stuff. And while I still love it, just didn't love it as much as I did the first time around. So.
Lori from the Chatty Bookworm. I'm sitting between a 3 and a 3.5. I just have some like Clint.
And then now we're on.
Sorry.
You're perfectly fine.
I'm recovering from whatever this mystery illness floating around is. So I'm Shay from Shockingly Shay Reads on Instagram. I'm with Clint. I don't know if I have a rating yet. There was a lot I liked and a lot I struggled with. So I was waiting for discussions too.
I will say everybody is linked down below. I've already got everybody should already be in the descriptions and stuff like that. So after this goes on to YouTube after the live show, everyone should already be down there. Looks like we have a comment. Hey Trin, how are y'all? Everyone doing?
I'm good.
I'm doing good besides recovering from being sick.
See, mystery illness going around.
Yep.
Okay, so do we want to just get into like the questions and stuff? I have some great questions that I've came up with and some like basic questions. So I will say 4 of the questions kind of go hand in hand together. but it'll make sense once we get to them. I figured because of this book being what it was, the perfect question to start with is just our thoughts on the writing style itself. Because to me, it felt a little jarring at places.
I definitely agree with that. That's one thing the first
Mhm.
time around I wasn't focusing on. But now that I've read more different reading styles and have started writing things myself, it's definitely jarring and then also just very simplistic.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It was easy writing in the realm of like comprehending everything that was happening, which in something like this is probably good to have because clearly, the book's meant to be for people who need it in, if they're at that stage of their journey. But it definitely, I don't know, maybe being more advanced readers felt
Yeah.
too simple.
Yeah. I will also say this is the author's first book. So if you take that, at least their
That's
first
fair.
published book.
Yeah.
So if you take that into account, kind of makes sense. It's a little simplistic because maybe they were just trying to figure out it, giving a bit of a benefit for the doubt.
Mm-hmm. I will say, finding out that she is an environmental scientist kind of made the writing style make sense to me because there
Yeah.
was parts that I had made a comment to a coworker the other day that it felt like I was reading more of an essay.
Yes. Yeah.
Like we had a thesis at the beginning, a hypothesis, and that we were trying to solve to see if the hypothesis was correct. That's kind of how it felt at
Yes.
the beginning.
I think I was
And
probably like halfway through and I decided because I was like, who is this author? Like, who wrote this? And I did a deep dive, and when I learned that, I was like, it was like everything made sense after that. Like everything made sense.
it's something that I find when you find out that the author is a scientist, it starts to like make more sense why certain moments
Mm-hmm.
are kind of jarring in certain types of writing because it's like they're so used to writing essays
Yep.
and performing like experiments that I feel like, yeah. So, any other thoughts on the writing style before we move on?
Hmm.
Okay. So, this next one is thoughts on the characters. I would like to save Will and Dan for last because they're the main characters and almost all the rest of the questions have to deal with them. So, what was y'all's thoughts on like Peter as a character and his character growth throughout the what we saw?
Hmm.
I personally didn't feel there was much growth in him as a character, but I definitely could see what was happening. Like I don't know. At the very beginning, when he and Cassie were getting introduced and stuff, I was like, nope. I was like, it's gonna be him. I was like, he's gonna be the one. Like I knew. I'm trying not to be spoilery for people watching, but I knew. I knew. But I don't feel there was much growth with him personally. It was a good character. It was a good, best friend character. But
Just saying, with it being a live book show discussion, go ahead and talk spoilers. Everyone should know by now that we're diving full in on this on books.
Yeah.
oh, okay. Well then,
Especially
yeah,
this
I
one, I want
completely.
to dissect this one a lot.
Yes.
I
I
knew
will.
from the second he was introduced, he was going to be the one to have a crush on. Like I knew it. It
Yeah.
was just.
I absolutely agree with you, Shay. And the only like character growth I think that I noticed was when, like, towards the end, when Peter gives Dan Will's address.
Mhm.
That I
Oh
was
yeah,
I like
that I was surprised with, but I
that's
also was
fair.
like, okay, this shows that Peter is okay with Will and Dan no matter what the situation is. So like, but that was like the only character growth or development that I saw.
I agree. It's like the minute Peter was introduced and how he kept introducing Will as this is my straight friend,
Yeah.
my straight friend, and it was like because I read it physically and I still heard it
Mm-hmm.
almost sarcastically.
Yep.
Like I could see the words being they should have been more like italicized because it was kind of like really, and he's like, I want to tell you that I'm not straight, but I can't because I'm not there yet. So
Yeah. From the audiobook perspective, I felt that the way the tone was for it was that it was almost like it was kind of sarcastically, but like he was trying to, I don't know, almost convince him that he's not so that he could have a shot with him in a way. But
and
yeah,
as the only male gay person here in my my late teens, early 20s, that is such a thing that sometimes when you fall in love with your straight friend,
mm-hmm.
sometimes you have that mentality of it's like, ooh, can I convince them that
To give
I'm
it
a
a
better
shot.
pick
Yeah.
than all the women that all the women they've been dating have been horrible. They should just try it with me. Because
Yeah.
I know I had that mentality because I fell in love with one of my straight friends. Didn't realize I was getting manipulated, but that's a totally other different story.
That's a story for a different live.
Okay.
One thing I did love about their relationship, though, because we need more examples of it, is just solid friendships in general. Like they fought, they argued at that club that night, but then, and like that happens. Like I've been in those kinds of arguments with my own friends, but then they came back the next day and they were like, he's like, I'm sorry, like I said some things, I really shouldn't have, but they were like, no, you should have, they needed to be said, blah, blah, blah. And, it was just, I liked that. I loved that because especially in male friendships, like, we need that.
I will definitely agree with that. Especially, I would like to see more queer friendships
Yeah.
because the one thing that I am happy with the whole Peter Will situation is they did not end up together. They didn't do anything. They didn't kiss. They did nothing.
Yeah.
Because the minute I knew Peter was gay, I was like, oh, is he going to try something at some point? Is this going to be like the conflict? Are they going to sleep together at some point? Because both characters like guys, so they have to do something, like
Yeah.
in most literature. So I did enjoy that part.
Yeah, it was a
For
trope
sure.
that normally happens that this book decided we're not gonna happen. And I mean, it still did have the trope of, oh, you're liking somebody and then you're gonna sleep with your ex, and like,
Oh gosh, don't even get me
I
started
mean,
on that.
we'll get into that in a moment.
yeah.
So
Oh,
now, Cassie, any thoughts on Cassie?
she's fun.
Yeah.
That was about it. She's fun.
Yeah, like I don't have that many thoughts besides like she's a fun character and like a good addition to the friend group because she almost feels like the glue. She's
Yeah.
trying to make everything be good and like it essentially go back to the way it was like in the previous year and all that. But also she recognizes that, okay, this is different.
What?
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, then any thoughts on Lily?
I mean, you don't really see her that much.
Yeah.
No, everything was pretty standard on what you would get, The first couple of interactions where she's snubbing him, like, she's the one who got dumped. It's going to happen. So
Yeah.
it felt standard.
But then one thing I did like about her character is that even though she and Will had the history and like he dumped her, she wasn't completely like, I hate your guts, like
Yeah.
Mhm.
like
I like punch, but
she was mature about everything going on.
yeah, I liked her.
Yeah. When they revisited the friendship and stuff, I was worried that it was going to be like a full, she's still like hung up on him, not just, the comfort of familiarity. So I was relieved that didn't happen. Like I was so worried. I was like, dude, I was like, they're going to have William be like this total, has everybody strung along. And I'm like, no.
Agreed.
I thought them two getting together at the end was really strange, though. It was just out of nowhere. To me.
Same. We didn't
Yes.
see any like character like interactions really between them
Yeah.
except like once or twice throughout the book.
Yeah.
And it was like girlfriends just hanging out, not girlfriends hanging out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
So-
sure, like, my neighbor probably thought I was, I don't know, getting attacked or something, because when I was listening to that point, I was cleaning, and I just kind of stopped, and I'm just, like, vocally, like, no! Why? No! I was like, why are we doing this? Like, I was so mad. I was like, no, why are we sleeping together? Like, why are we, like, no.
Yeah. That is definitely the one thing that even both the times I read it, like the first time I was like, I'm sorry, what is going on?
Right.
And then even when I read it again, my brain didn't forget that it happened, but I was like, oh yeah, this happened. Huh?
My brain took it as, oh, the author saw, oh, all three needs to be paired up with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate to relate this because the fact that she's such an anti-trans person, but in my head, when I read that, I went, oh, it's Hermione and Ron all over again.
That's
Like,
fair.
they shouldn't be together.
I didn't like with those two. I don't know, maybe this is like in a different question, but the clinic visit and stuff, and she's like, no, it's not yours, not yours. Like, clearly it's not his. It hasn't been nearly long enough since they've slept together for it to be his child.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Like,
I think it was
that
what,
was. It was a couple of weeks, maybe,
like
but that
2 or 3.
annoyed me. Yeah.
I also didn't see the point of having that
Right.
in the book.
Yeah,
we're
me
already dealing with other issues. Why are we throwing in one random, oh, let's throw this wrench in the belt just as Dan thinks
Hmm.
you almost had a kid?
I think it was one of those, because I think it was you I was talking to about this, how they were trying to like normalize
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things, and I feel like that was part of this. Like, the author tossed that in there just to help normalize it as part of everyday life, which, like, fair, cool, but it did nothing for what this book was for.
Yeah. I feel like it would have been better and like just better executed if maybe Will and Lily didn't sleep together and then she was coming to him to be like, okay, I trust you with
Mhm.
this.
Yes.
That would have been better, but it's the fact that they slept with each other. He had the panic of,
Hmm.
oh shit, could it have been mine? And then it happened. That's where it was just like,
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the only other side character I can think of is Kirst, his sister,
Oh, yeah.
which we really didn't get a lot. But the only question I have with her is, because she came from an abusive relationship, did her character in the book make sense for it being only a year since?
I feel like
Like,
she was
kind of how she was.
I feel like she was one of those, at least at Christmas anyway, is just one of those, like, plot devices to just finally pull him out.
Yeah, just to be there and be like, no matter what, I'll support you, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
But, like,
I don't think there was.
with her, like, having been in the situation she was and it being a year later, it's like people, like, heal from those situations differently. So her being, like, happy and seemingly, like, better is okay, because some people, it like, they jump out of it really quickly and they're like, yeah, that happened, whatever. And then there's some where it drags out and it's more of like a long process. And since we don't know enough about her to know how she dealt with it, really, it was just there.
Yeah.
But I guess that also does kind of bring, I'm sure it's probably a question later, but like, obviously throughout the book, Will is very much like, he's helping Dan because of his sister's situation. And it almost makes you think of like, oh, is he like in the beginning, is he only caring about Dan because of what his sister went through? Or is there more to it?
I didn't even think about adding that as a question, but that's a good point.
I just thought of that as we were kind of talking about her. I was like, wait a second.
But that does make a good point. But I do agree with that. Like, it did make me wonder, was he only interested in him to begin with because he saw his sister?
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to save in the situation.
But even if that is the case, it still doesn't diminish the fact that it's like they still became friends, they still got together, but like the relationship is still real. It just, who knows, it could have started through different intentions. And even Will kind of says in the book of like, whenever he's kind of thinking about Dan's situation with Matthew, it's he kind of parallels it with his sister's situation. So even he recognizes that it's like, well, I know I can help you out because I know somebody that's been through this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, now getting on to Will and Dan, with this question alone on them, I just want to know, what did y'all think of the characters themselves? Not quite some of the actions that take place, because we're going to dive into a lot of that. But what did y'all think of Will as a character, like through his like character development and stuff like this, if you think there is any?
I will say I relate to him on so many levels. Like, he is essentially me in male form of the, like, not wanting to come out because, like, I'm only out to online and, like, a small group of people in person. And then also just the anxiety around, like, I was kind of talking to Clint about this before the live, of, like, when you're friends with somebody and you like them and it's kind of, like, you're not sure if they like you back, the being, like, terrified to act on it, say anything. I'm literally going through that right now in my personal life.
Right.
So I really related to him, and I think that's kind of why I like the book so much, is because we are so similar.
I mean, y'all are around the same age too, so
Yeah, I'm like a year older than him.
It took me a while to get into him, though. But once I got into him, I liked him. But it took me a while to get there.
It's funny that you say that, Hope, because when I met my husband, I was I think I was 19 when I met him, and then 20 when I really started to like get to know him and whatnot. So like when I think back on that time, we've been together for 13 years. So I can see myself in Will, because we did start off we were working together, so we were teammates, and then it branched into friendship and whatnot, and then it was like, how do you tell him that you like him and whatnot? So yeah, looking back, I can see that. I was having a hard time relating to him because in my brain it was, oh, he's 19, I'm 33, like there's nothing there. But when I go back to that age, I was like, oh, yep, there it is.
I mean, me and my husband, we have a similar situation too, where we were coworkers when, like, we met 10 years ago at the clubs, where he has pictures on his Facebook that I took. I don't remember that meeting him that night, but then we reconnect. Like, we were both working at Lowe's 5 years ago when we reconnected and we became best friends, and then we slowly became more.
Right.
And the anxiety of wanting to tell him that I like him. Thank God alcohol was involved and it did all the talking for me.
I feel like I need a situation where I can let alcohol do all the talking for me.
Alcohol and Scooby-Doo lit everything out for me, so it made it so much better and easier.
I don't even know how we got there to that point. Like I don't know at what point we were like, oh yeah, we like each other. I think it was just kind of clear.
Mhm.
I don't know.
And then now on to Dan. Any thoughts on his character?
I liked him a lot. He was my favorite, probably.
Yeah.
I really liked him because it shows that a character that has a very like complex past with a lot of hardships can still be innocent in some ways, because he's very much like very cautious and very sweet in some ways, and so like his past doesn't reflect the person that he wants to become, and it's kind of clear in the book.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
So the next 4 questions technically all kind of go together. So we may end up covering one of the questions by answering another. But so I have first with Will and Dan make a lot of bad choices in the novel due to trauma. Does their actions represent the trauma authentically? And does the trauma make sense how they made their actions? Granted, Will was basing his a little bit more off his sister's trauma, but even he has some, because the whole trying to come out, that in itself is its own brand of trauma, because he was doing it to himself.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I got annoyed with how, like, I understand Will was trying to help save Dan from the situation, but I got annoyed with how, like, controlling he was trying to be about it. Like, he was like, stormed in there and was like, I've already had to get one person out. I know what I'm doing. And then, like, okay, well, back up. Like, there's more that could be going on with this, because we didn't get a lot of backstory on his sister's situation other than she's a survivor of a bad situation. Like, we don't know what was involved. And then this one has, the drugs and the violence too. So it's like, you're trying to help, sure, but he was trying so hard to take control. And I'm like, back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, that's like, I think the one thing I really don't like about Will is he's a pushy person.
Mm-hmm.
Which I can understand why, because he's almost taking his like internal like struggle to come out and like essentially like pushing it onto others and into their situation, because he's like, oh well, if I'm pushing this person to deal with their issue, I don't have to worry about myself. So in some ways, I
Mhm.
guess I'm realizing that's kind of selfish of him.
But I will say, yes, it is selfish, but those who are struggling with their own identity, I'm not saying that it's good. Hold on. That needs to go. Whoa. What just happened, laptop? Okay. Sorry, something popped up and everything went away. Um, Not saying that it's okay, but something I've realized is when people are struggling with their own identity, their own sexuality, stuff like that, sometimes they do that where they're like,
Right.
let me help everybody else with their issues and me focus on that, then I don't have to deal with my own.
Yeah.
Then I never have to say the words. I never have to put myself in harm's way to get hurt because people might not accept me.
Yeah,
That's fair.
definitely. Like it's like in some ways he's selfish, but other ways it's like self-preservation for himself and also giving him time to like do it on his own terms. So it's like that, yes, him pushing Dan to like deal with his stuff isn't great, but in some ways it's like in the end everything ends up okay, so I guess the entire situation is okay. Like in some ways not. Like it's complicated. And that's one thing that I do kind of appreciate with the book. It's not cut and dry, like, okay, this happens, this happens, this happens. It's like,
Right.
how do I word it? I don't even know how to word what I'm thinking.
But I get where you're going with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that everything is hunky dory in the
But
end, just
it's
based on a
not.
couple of the questions that we're about to dive
Yeah,
into.
it's
But
not, but like it's better than it was in the beginning,
yeah,
I guess, is a better way
Yeah.
to word it.
I do think Dan's reaction to everything was very authentic to what he's been through. You know, he wants to keep Will a secret in a sense to protect him so that way Matthew doesn't find him because, you know, pushed him down the stairs and all that stuff. And so I do think his reaction was very authentic and written very well for like that side of things.
Honestly, the one thing that in some ways that I don't not don't agree, but I feel like was almost slightly forced in the end is when Dan is like, "Okay, I'm quitting smoking." And it's like he's had so many life changes in such a short
Mm-hmm.
time. Here's one thing that keeps him grounded and he's giving it up just because
Yes.
Will doesn't like it. I'm like, "Okay, I get it. Maybe down the line, a year or two down the line, sure. But right now,
That, you know what, I
it
didn't,
felt
yeah.
jarring."
I agree with
That one definitely. As someone married to someone who's been smoking since they were 16 years old and they're 39, 1000%. That one did actually kind of blindside me a little bit because I'm like, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are relationships out here that's happened to, but I was like, that is actually probably one of the most unrealistic things that happened in this book
Yeah.
because he was unemployed for 6 months. Yes, he cut back, but he didn't full on quit like that. Even then, you know, like that's just, it's not realistic when you've been smoking for that long to just up and be like, yep, I'm done. Like, no.
Yeah, like Dan said
No.
that he had been smoking for about 10 years.
Yeah.
It would have made sense maybe if he went from using heroin to then smoking and then deciding and then quitting, like, because it would have been a shorter time. But
Mhm.
10 years, that was
Nope.
a big chunk of his life. It's also what would have helped him cope during his time in Russia in the military and all that too. So it's like of
Yeah, because
not
he was
only
only
just
26, right?
yeah,
25, 26. Yeah.
So he was
So
15
absolutely
when he
not.
started.
yeah, he
He
was
would
like
not
6.
have. Yeah.
It would not have been as simple as just throwing out the pack of smokes.
No, not at all.
Yeah. One thing I will add is that there is the novella that happens afterwards that does, I think, if I remember correctly, go into that a tiny bit more. But I don't fully remember it.
And seeing as Shay's already touched on this a little bit, because this is one of the other questions, we'll skip to this one. Do you think Will was controlling of Dan? Because the one thing that really irked me, and I read, because I was talking with Lori about it yesterday, and she said she had read some reviews, so I went and looked at some reviews, and some people like actually pointed out something that did really irritate me, is constantly asking an addict, if they've had their painkillers.
Oh my
Did you
gosh.
take the medicine? Did you take the medicine? Did you take your medicine? Did you take your medicine? To someone who has an addictive personality, that can be more harmful than good. Especially if his ribs aren't hurting anymore. Why are you constantly asking if he's had his medication?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can see kind of both sides. There's the one side that is the compassionate side, and there's like, okay, but what if he's lying to me about him not being in pain? I like to make sure he's okay. But then it's also that almost like the doctor side of Will that's like, okay, take your pain meds, do this, like wanting to like force Dan to be okay instead of letting him do it on his own. So I kind of see like both sides of it. There's the kind of the controlling, but then there's also the compassionate side. And I'm kind of torn on where I lie on like which one I agree with a bit more. I'm kind of like 50-50. It's like, I don't know.
Do you want to know what's funny though? And this piece, while it relates to the book, is kind of a side tangent. So I have friends of all walks of life. I have friends that are in the medical field. Like one of my now best friends is a paramedic. I have friends that have been on Dan's side of things and they were addicts. They would not have prescribed him pain meds. They would have told him that you can take ibuprofen and that's it. They would not have prescribed him pain meds being a drug addict.
Yeah.
Especially if they know that he is trying to recover.
Yep. So I did not like that piece of it, and I didn't really think much. Like I thought of it in the moment, and I highlighted on my Kindle too because I bought the Kindle with the Audible like combo thing so that I could like annotate the Kindle, and I did highlight that in my Kindle because I was like, absolutely not. They would never have prescribed him pain meds. At most, they would have given him ibuprofen 800s, but they wouldn't have given him anything stronger than that. And the implication was that they gave him stronger stuff.
And if they would have, it would have been when he was in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Where it's monitored.
It would have been monitored by the doctor. That's why he's there.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't really think about that until you guys were pointing out, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah. That annoyed me so much, and I was like, you know what, that might have been the point where I did Google the author, because I was like, if they did a like 5 minutes of research on that, they would have been able to find that on Google, because that right there pulled me out of the whole thing, because I was like, nope, absolutely not. They do not prescribe drug addicts or recovering drug addicts pain meds that require a prescription.
Yep.
I was like, no.
He didn't tell the doctor.
Fair. That's fair. That is fair.
If he's been doing heroin, there should have been signs.
Mm-hmm. There would have been 1,000%.
So, but if he sits there and swears up and down he hasn't, they can prescribe him.
Yeah, that's fair. But because that wasn't clear.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there was so much missing out of this book that could have benefited the book a little bit more.
Yeah. One thing that was, and this is a me thing, and I never hold this against books, is I'm a fantasy girly. I'm not a standalone novel type of person, because of the fact that like I need backstory, because you get books like this that are standalone situations that, while the book itself was over a couple of months, this was one situation that was happening. You know, we didn't get actual introductions to Peter and Cassie. It was just, you know, these are my friends. Like, there was no introduction. It was just they were there. And, like, I don't do well with standalone books because you just get dropped in the middle of things, and then this is what happens. And I feel like because of that, like, this is what happens. So I really struggled with that, and that contributed to all of this. There was just not enough backstory.
And because it was already touched as well, the other major question was, do you think the recovery of the heroine was talked about and dealt with authentically or not? Because I know of people who have gone through recovery from being addicted to something, and there's a lot more signs with that than were represented in this.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes, Dan got sick a couple of times, but he didn't get cold. He didn't have the shakes. He didn't like
The
there's
actual withdrawal symptoms.
like there was no like withdrawal symptoms
Yeah.
that made him like, oh, I need to go do that now. Like he didn't have any of those conversations with Will of I feel like I need to have it. I need to have it now. And if he's been forced to be in this because of a controlling situation, no matter how long you're on it, the withdrawals of getting out of it, yeah, they're different for everybody, but there still should be some representation of the withdrawal.
Yeah. And I think the author tried, because there were some moments in passing where he was like, yeah, I'm not feeling good.
Right.
But that was it. And I think that was meant to be, and that's possibly where the author's like inexperience with it might come from. Because I didn't see anything in my Googling that the author had any personal experience with this type of stuff.
Yeah,
It was
I
her
feel
first book, so maybe she changed in the other books. I don't know. I never read any of her books. So.
yeah, fair. I think the author just very much just simplified the recovery to like, I don't know if it was just to simplify it for their own sake and just to like so they didn't have to do as much research, or just to simplify it for the sake of the book to not like overwhelm the book with it. Like, I don't know about that. Like, it's simplified, but like, was it dealt with authentically? Not really.
I'm probably going to say the dreaded words here that a lot of people don't like when we're talking about adult books, but I felt like when it came to this type of a topic, it was YA'd. It was like, this is an adult book, but we dealt with it with like YA mindset.
Yes.
Kids hit gloves or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I feel like some of the decisions Dan made, or even some of the decisions Will made about Dan, if we would have seen a little bit more of the withdrawals and stuff like that, it would make more sense for like the controlling slight aspects of what Will is doing on why he cares so much and doesn't want to see him hurting. I think it would make more sense.
Yeah. And like the author didn't even have to like add more scenes in about it, just could have the little scenes that we were seeing the like recovery just go in the tiniest bit more detailed of like a simple change could have been like when Dan goes to the bathroom to throw up, maybe he comes out of the bathroom and he's kind of like shaking and like feeling like weak or something.
Sweating.
Yeah, sweating or something like that, just to kind of add like the tiniest bit of something more to it.
Or like why they're sitting side by side, Dan could have just been shaking, and that's why Will reached over and grabbed his hand.
Yeah.
To help him, like, so he knows that he's there, why he's going through it. See, That's the other thing when we go back to this question of the controlling of Dan. Dan just got out of a very abusive, controlling relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, was Dan allowing Will to do some of the things he did because that's all he knows? Because
I've never thought about that.
Will was being controlling in certain ways. And Will was like, no, you can't go back to him because he controlled you and all this other stuff. So you see the controlling, but you don't see what you're doing is also controlling. It's that overprotective helicopter parent mindset kind of thing. That you're like overprotecting, like putting an eggshell around
Yeah.
him and it can't be broken. So I feel like a couple of the things Will did should have been done a little bit more with care.
Yeah.
Because the fact of what Matthew did to Dan. Which does bring us back to a question that Hope brought up with the whole, do you feel like the friendship is forced or just natural? And can forced friendships turn into real ones? And can natural friendships turn fake?
Natural friendships can definitely turn fake. I have unfortunately been in far too many.
Fortunately.
But the other side, the forced natural, he was coming off so creepy at the beginning there. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was stalkery. It was so stalkery.
Yep.
Like, I get it. He's a 19-year-old kid, but I'm just like, can you not?
All Dan did was smile at him and ask if he wanted cheese on his potato. Or whatever the heck it was that he ordered.
Yeah, like when all of that started, it felt so cliche of the, definitely anybody, but definitely a man realizing that they may be bi, and it's like, oh, the first guy that smiled at me, I now have a crush on them. Like, that's what it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
That is what it felt like. And I was so mad. Like, I was like, it just felt like poor representation or cliche representation, because I'm like, no, it's not like that. It's not always like that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I was like, no. I'm like, it just felt like first guy that smiled at him, crush.
I really agree with that so much.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you're being way too sus and you're putting on you're being way too much with him, and all he did was ask if you wanted cheese and he smiled at you.
Right.
I just want to add of like, I definitely, this is gonna calm me out for a second, but
God.
I've definitely been in that situation where it's like you see somebody, you find them attractive and like that type of thing, where you're just kind of like, but like not to that degree.
Right.
Maybe after like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Like that's my situation. Not just like once, oh my god, you're amazing, like that. No. But like after a couple times, and I'm saying that because that's literally the situation that I'm in now. How it started.
It just felt like he, went to Starbucks, made his order, and all of a sudden was like, that's going to be my person. Like, I will date you. And I was like, no.
Yeah. Too soon.
I mean, in the past, I've been one of those, oh my god, that guy smiled at me. Oh my god, did he think I was cute? Oh my god. I'll take it. Yes.
Right.
Like, should I go back and get his number? No, I'm not that type of person. But that's mainly because in my head, I'm like, oh, they're complimenting me, and I normally feel ugly about myself, so I'll take
Right.
a compliment. I'm not going to be like, hey, want to sleep together now?
Right. Like, I
You're
don't
going to
know.
be my
He
person
just
forever.
he made it his whole personality, I feel like. And like, you're a med student. Like, that's your personality. No, I mean, okay. But I don't know, I feel like because of this, maybe this is me thinking too far into like comparing to real people, because we all lose ourselves a little bit when we're first start dating someone, because we make that person our whole life for a minute before we come back to ourselves. And I was sitting here the whole time like, is this really who, not Dan, Will, is this really who Will is? Like, he just turned this dude into his whole life and personality. But then I had to remind myself he's 19.
Yeah.
It's that moment of we have to remember when we were young, we were just like that.
Oh yeah.
I could easily call myself out on
Yeah.
something similar.
I
to
mean,
that.
we could.
We- Clint, I think you know exactly what situation I'm thinking of.
Yes, I am.
So.
The whole reason why we put Ba on hold to begin with. So I get it.
Oopsies.
Sorry. I'll call myself out. My husband's my whole life. I love him with all my being. I did when I was younger, because I grew up watching a lot of abusive relationships. Everybody in my family has been divorced either in my lifetime or right before my lifetime, that I'm super close with. So like, I never wanted to do relationships or anything. So I was that person that he became my whole life. I didn't dump my friends. I may have pulled back a little bit, but I didn't completely dump them. But he was my whole life. And I did have that point where I had to come back and find myself, because I kind of forgot who I was. And so, like I can relate to that aspect of what was happening, because I had to do that. He still is my whole life. I just balance it with who I am too.
Yeah. Same. When me and my husband first met, it was the same way.
Yeah.
All him at first.
But I do feel like that's, in some ways, every relationship. There's always that,
Mhm.
like, the honeymoon phase when you first
Yes, yeah.
of get with somebody, they become your everything, and it is kind of hard to break out of that. But, like,
Mhm.
eventually you have to break out of that.
Yeah.
Agreed. Because it won't be a real relationship until you actually break out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while some relationships can survive that breaking out of that period, others don't. And
Mhm.
that's part of life.
Right.
I've experienced that firsthand pretty dang recently.
Yeah, and I've only ever witnessed the ones that don't last. So I was really nervous when I finally was like, listen, I realized I've lost myself, because I've never lived alone. Like I moved out of my parents, I moved in with roommates, and we started dating while I was with roommates, and then they all moved on. He needed a place to stay, so he moved in with me. We've literally been living together since like 3 months into our relationship. I've never lived alone. And I finally got to that point one day where I was like, I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. And I don't want to lose this, because I love you so much. Like, are you willing to go on that journey with me again to, rediscover everything I used to love doing, to see if I still, and we did, because he realized the same about himself too. So we went on that together and started having that time away. Like, we didn't move apart. We just had our separate activities.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I feel that so hard, because a lot of the relationships I've seen over the years have not been the best.
Mhm.
My mother is on her 7th partner. 5 marriages, and out of those 5 marriages, she married one man twice. and she divorced one, married a different one, and then went back to the other one. Listen, I've seen nothing but all of the abuse
Why?
and them constantly cheating and all that stuff. I mean, my dad's also been in jail most of my life. So it's like all I've seen is that. And I have moved. When I moved out, I moved in with roommates, moved in with other roommates, lived with other people, other people, other people. And like
Mhm.
Sterling, when he got out of his relationship, he moved in with us. He moved in with us November 1st. We started officially dating November 15th. So, or at
Yeah,
least that's
that's
what
fair.
people call our official date
Yeah.
because we mixed our books together on a bookshelf. Apparently, that's the sign that I was head over heels for someone because I allowed their books to be on my bookshelf with me.
Listen, our like dating anniversary date is the date that he got fired from the place we both worked at because he got fired for such a crap reason. Like the whole like building, company, floor, whatever team, like just 75 people were ready to riot and burn this building to the ground because he got fired because of the reason he got fired for. It is one of the most toxic places I've ever worked at. So we all knew everybody's business. So we suspect that they knew that we were friends and like starting to develop a relationship. We weren't going to be dating because we knew that we would both, one or both of us would get fired and we did both need our jobs. So we were not dating, but we think because they heard wind of the two of us, becoming closer, they needed to find a reason to get rid of one or both of us. So that's our like dating anniversary. So listen, I can definitely sympathize with the whole mixing the books, okay? Like I get it.
I was
Same
like,
vibe.
everyone was like, that's when I knew you liked him. That's when I knew y'all were going to start dating, is because you put his books on your bookshelf. And I'm like, really? Really? And I was like, we were living together. He was supposed to have one bookshelf all to his books, but it
Right.
didn't look right. My fantasy was on the other side and he had fantasy over here. It did not work with my OCD people. He has all of his books on a list. It was allowed. It made better sense. But okay,
Oh
so
gosh.
this next question, if we have an answer, what was y'all's favorite scene or least favorite scene in the book? I will start with
Mm.
my least favorite was him sleeping with Lily.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. 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 Definitely.
And
Unanimous, like, yeah.
my favorite scene was Dan going to his parents' house, going to
I,
Will's parents'
Yeah.
house.
yeah.
Love that.
Yes, I was about to say that because I'm cheesy like that. Like I love that stuff. It's
Yes.
cutesy.
I feel like mine is either that or when they go like out after they've like officially gotten together and like tell everybody.
Mm,
I feel like it's a tie because they just have different like impacts on the characters.
Mhm.
yeah.
But I can't pick, it's like one of those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for me it's definitely Dan showing up to his parents' house because
God,
like that's
I
very just Hallmark movie.
yeah, I love that. Definitely my favorite part.
The only thing that could have made it better was if it was raining and then they kissed.
Stop. Don't forget the flowers.
Oh, I like all that. We all know that I'm a cliche and I like
Yeah.
all the cliche things.
I like
Listen.
candy and books. Give me a candy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think
any
it really would be that. Like okay, no, I think I think it might be tied between that and honestly just the fight between Will and Peter and then them coming back. Like I'm all about having strong friendship representation because like, you see on TV all of the like girl friendships that are, super deep. One of my favorite shows is The Bold Type from Freeform, and it's all about like strong female. I love that stuff because you need that, and men don't have that. Like, my husband has 3 amazing friends that you honestly, if he was going to switch teams, it'd be for one of these 3 dudes because they're just that close. So that might be a pretty close first for me because we just need those examples. We need that representation of real, true,
Yep.
like,
And
vulnerable friendships.
it not lead toxic.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Because that's what I find as a gay man, it's hard to have male friends sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you either end up with the cliches, they try to sleep with you, you sleep with them,
Mhm.
or they get very toxic.
Yeah.
But then again, I also come from a drag like viewpoint of it, and my drag family, Sterling was the one who pointed out how toxic everything was going. I mean, my former group of friends, there was a couple of guys in that group that was passed around us.
Fair.
So,
I think
small
it just
world.
also comes from the competitive nature of everybody. Like, everybody's trying to one up everybody, do better, be better. And instead of, so y'all know the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, right? Like,
Yes.
it takes a village to just live. And that is what people, I think, they think that once you're into adulthood, it's a competition. And it's not, it's really not. Like, I don't wish to succeed over anybody else. Like, even when I apply for positions at work, am I a little disappointed? Sure, but I'm not like mad at the person that did get the position. Like, good for you. Like, I love that for you. You know,
Unless they got the position for some bogus reason. I'm like that
fair.
too. I'm like,
No,
oh,
that
they
I
got
get
the
that.
position just because they're
Hmm.
sleeping with the boss's daughter or something. I'm like,
Fair, that's fair.
yeah,
No, I
then
get
I
your.
might be mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. There are those situations that occur, but it's just like, and that's, I love when I come across books that have these strong friendships because everything is just, you know, and with everything I have going on, like, my husband with his accident back in February, like, I have a good village. We all try to uplift each other, and everything that popped up this weekend that Clinton knows, like, they've already shown up since, and it's been a weekend. Like, we don't even have anything settled yet, and it's just been, like, I love seeing stuff like that because that is what we need at least in America.
Hello. I don't know about you, Hope, up in Canada, but at least the 3 of us down here, that's what we need.
That's
It's
what
kind of the
this
same up here too.
We need more of
No.
everybody holding hands and going kumbaya, please.
We do, though. We do. Like, I'm sorry, the second that I see someone that is being, like, you want to be upset over a situation, sure, but the second you're being, like, petty at that person, I'm like, nope, done. Don't want you in my life. That's not what I'm trying to build.
Depends on the situation, because I know I can be petty at certain times.
Oh,
But then
same.
again, I'm also
Same.
dramatic, so
Anybody could be that way at times.
Listen, I just ended a friendship a couple months ago, really bad terms. This person thought that, still probably thinks that I, like, intentionally stole money from them or something. I didn't. I paid all the money back that I forgot to cash app them, and I paid it back. But they still think that I owe them more money. I don't. I gave them bank statements because it involved my bank account, and I just, everybody, like, I'm over here at the point where, like, I was angry over the situation, but I still never wished ill on the person, and I still don't. But I'm sitting back watching karma do the work. Like, this person's life has not been, like, she just keeps getting hit with things ever since we stopped talking. Because my mom still talks to this person, so I'm over here, like, just watching her life. I'm like, karma's doing it for me. I don't want that for her. I really don't, but of her own doing.
I mean, that's just like me when me and my former best friend are no longer friends. He was my drag mom. I chose love and my husband. over toxic friendships.
Yeah.
And his life has gone nothing but downhill ever since. But then again, he also lost like almost 200 pounds, and he became one of those stuck up skinny
Oh.
people too.
No.
So I was just like, you do you, boo boo. I'll be over
Yeah.
here living my life, doing my thing. You do you. But okay. So does the title represent the book?
I mean, it represents Will's part of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And I
figured
get that, like, he's the main character.
Right.
So I'd say it does.
So is Will the one with the glasses, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because reading the book, it like I kept looking at both people going,
Same.
Huh?
both can be either, but okay.
I don't think I
Mhm.
realized who was who on the cover until after I'd finished the book the first time
Yep.
around.
It wasn't until I was done with the book that I really was like, okay, so who is it that kept saying they take their glasses off at night? Which that was great representation. The glasses wearing, that was great. Like the amount, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that caught on to the amount of like detail the author put into making sure the glasses were put down in the right place, that they weren't going to get crushed or anything.
Yeah, or even when he was like the scene where Will
Yeah.
fell asleep on Dan's shoulder and he was complaining about like the glass
Yeah.
pushing up against the face.
Yes.
I'm like, I feel that.
Like I know I'm not wearing them right now, but I do wear glasses regularly. Like I'm my phone is like this far away from my face right now, and it's blurry. Not much, but it's just blurred. So like I need my glasses. But that representation was great. That was accurate.
As someone with blended bifocals, because my eyesight will flip due to my blood sugar and blood pressure. So that was, to me, I was like, okay, cool. Yes, I like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's cute.
I don't know if I mean, yeah, sure. It does represent Will, which is who we were
I
following,
feel
but
like
I don't
this
know.
one was like a no-brainer question, but it's one of those that like it will work for future books, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I feel like the title probably could have been something a little different, but because as much as it was about him not being ready or trying to come out, it was just as much about helping Dan's recovery.
But I feel like the book title could also, in some ways, kind of
Not quite out of the addiction.
yeah,
Not quite
Oh,
out
fair.
of the situation.
yeah.
The
I was just
situation.
kind of
Okay.
thinking as we were talking, I was like,
Yeah.
but not
Quite out,
quite
yeah.
out of his previous situation, so it works for that too in some ways.
Fair. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I can see that.
And he was going back and forth on if he wanted to go back with I can't remember the guy's name.
Matthew.
Yeah,
Oh, Matthew, yeah.
Which makes sense because most people who come from controlling relationships,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
hard
yeah.
for them to fully break away from that person. Because, like, it
Mhm.
was hard for me to break away from the friendship with my former best friend. We were friends for 10 years.
Yeah.
It started out amazing. Yes, it turned toxic because of him, not because of me. So,
Yeah.
and I know we've kind of covered this one, but did anything in the book shock you minus the Cassie Lily at the end?
That
'Cause I
didn't
know
shock me.
which I know that kind of like came out of nowhere.
What was it kind of blindsiding? Sure, but at the same time, I was not surprised by that at all. I don't know. Maybe I've seen too many people that try to play the other team after a rough situation, whether it's a breakup or the abortion or any of that stuff. Like, I don't know. I had a feeling.
Agreed.
But anything else that's shocking? I don't know.
I don't think so. Nothing shocked me.
Nothing
Yeah,
shocked me.
I don't think so either.
Actually, I think the one thing I wouldn't go with shock, but The book overall was really predictable for me, and I don't know if that's just because I have read and watched so many things in my life. But what was the guy's name? Owen? Dan's coworker being the one to kind of out Dan's situation. I wasn't expecting that to be how Will learned.
See, you say that, and then that's me with Peter having
Oh,
the connection.
to
That
Matthew,
shocked me. To
yes,
Matthew having a connection
yes,
to Matthew. I thought
yeah.
that was going to lead to Matthew showing up at Will's.
Mm-hmm.
I
Or
was
Same.
even
I
at
did
waiting.
one
think
of
that.
the events.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
waiting for Matthew to appear somewhere and be the confrontation of the book. Because I
Yeah.
kept feeling
Yes.
like that's what was lacking from it. You
Yeah,
kept
Yeah.
when
mentioning how dangerous this person is, and this person now knows of Will. Why didn't he
Mm-hmm.
do something?
I'm shocked
Yes.
that we didn't technically actually see Matthew.
My first initial thought when Matthew was brought up, at the very beginning of all of that stuff, I thought the book was gonna go to the direction of, Dan's gonna try and protect Will as much as he can, but then there's going to be that confrontation. Matthew's gonna come forward, and then we were gonna actually find out that Dan was the manipulator in the relationship, and then it basically was going to turn Dan into the bad guy. Like I said, I read way too many different things, so I really thought it was going to flip around. And then when I realized it wasn't going to, I was like, oh, okay. But I still, the Peter Matthew connection there, that one, yeah.
Okay, so would this book be benefited by another POV? If so, who? To me, I think it would, because I feel like if we would have gotten at least one or two chapters in Dan's point of
Yeah.
view,
Yeah.
I think we would have understood Dan a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like maybe when he was gone.
Yeah. Mhm.
I would love a chapter when he was in New Zealand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it would have benefited.
Mm-hmm. Even if it was just at the end of the book, just, hey, here's a bonus chapter from Dan's point of view,
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm
Yeah.
more that way where I like them more when there's 2 point of views, especially if it's
Mm-hmm.
they're in a relationship. I want to hear both sides of their.
Dude, I'm nosy. I want to see it all. I want to hear all the thoughts. I want to know all the things.
Same.
Uh-huh.
I feel like at least when Dan found out that he slept with Lily, at least getting his point of view in a chapter, at least with
Yes.
that, would make us feel like, oh, Dan really cares.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really hurt Dan.
Yeah, he didn't seem like it bothered him at all. He just
Yeah.
okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And I want to know what Dan's thoughts were too when when Will was starting, when they were getting as friends physically close. That is where because there was the comments about the one-off forehead kisses and stuff, and I'm like, I have seen a lot of straight gay best friend dynamics, and I've never ever seen there's comfort but not that. So I was like, I've never seen what is Dan's thoughts on that, because that
I
would
have.
have immediately okay, because I don't know, and I know I haven't lived everywhere, but it's good to see that there is that out there, but I definitely was like, does that happen? Because I've never, not to be oh, I've never seen it, so it doesn't, but
See, I used to hang out with a guy who was straight, who we had that kind of a close friendship at one point,
okay.
where he would kiss me on the forehead when he would leave and
What?
stuff like that. Because that was just kind of how he was of a person.
Okay. Well, that's
Granted,
cool.
that led to us being drunk one night and doing some things, and then me and him never talking again. But
Of course.
Of course.
But that
Yeah.
was kind of our dynamic. I would cuddle up next to him on the couch, or my head would be in
Gotcha.
his lap while we're watching a movie, type thing. And
Right.
I was super young, so that was kind of the whole feeling of, oh, I'm falling in love with my straight best friend.
That's fair.
And I kept beating myself up, going, why am I falling for a straight guy? Type thing. So I get it.
Yeah.
Those little
That's fair.
things I did get. But I think it would also been beneficial because weren't those the few nights where Dan didn't sleep?
Hmm.
Even if we just got those POVs
Yeah.
of what he was thinking and how he was looking at Will sleeping next to him. Okay, so this is a quote that is in the acknowledgments, where the author said the whole concept of coming out is weird and messy and painful, and honestly, it's a different experience for everyone. Does this book represent this?
I think so. I would think so. It just because, especially with the stigma around being bi, I think it did that part well. I definitely agree that the whole concept of coming out is weird and messy. Like I hope one day we can get society as a whole get to a point where there's no such thing as like coming out. It just
Yeah.
like I just that whole thing. Like I've had friends like come out to me, and I'm just like, I know what you're doing, and I'm not trying to say this from like to I was like, I'm happy you're happy, and I'm like, but I don't like. It's not that I don't care because I do care, but like not the spectacle, but like the gesture you're making of it. I'm like, you like who you like. I'm not worried about it.
My thing with it a whole is like, I'm not sleeping in the bed with you, so why does it matter to me?
Right. If you're not contributing, like if I'm not contributing to your 3Fs or vice versa, I don't
Yes.
care.
Mhm.
Like I don't care. It's not my business. Rather, like it's
Doesn't matter who people love.
yeah, and it's. I know it's not like the true argument, but like the whole LGBTQ community as a whole, like anybody in my family that speaks against any letter there, I'm just like, why does it bother you? And they're like, it's weird. I don't understand it. And I was like, I'm sorry, are they contributing to your life in any manner that actually means they get a say in what you do or what they do? And they say no. And I was like, then it doesn't matter. Literally doesn't matter. I'm like, why do you get to say what they do and don't do?
See, and that's exactly why I liked how we revamped BAA. Is there are several identities in there that I don't understand. I will never understand because I'm not it.
Right.
But
But that is why I'm actively looking for books with these identities in them.
Yeah.
So we can share it to the world and have queer joy and shove it down people's throats. Be like, they're just normal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I
But
caused a whole argument at Christmas over trans, like on
listen,
Christmas.
same.
Yeah.
My mother had me explain to my grandmother what non-binary and trans were all about, and I had to go into this full conversation. And I went, I should not be having this conversation right
Mhm.
now because I see the look on your face and I know exactly what's about to come out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And I feel
Yep.
like I'm going to reach across and smack you, but I can't because you're my grandmother.
Yeah. No, my aunt was like, well, since you understand, explain it to me. I'm like, no, I don't understand what it means to be going through that, but I don't need to.
right.
I was like, I just need to, when Samuel comes to me and says, hey, I want to go by Samantha. Okay. I'm like, that's it. That's literally all you have to do. And I was like, I don't understand what they're going through because I'm not going through
I
it.
just look at it like we call Lady Gaga Lady Gaga. What's the difference?
Right. And
Her real name is Stephanie. We don't call her
Yep.
Stephanie. We call her Lady Gaga.
Right.
Yeah. And I use, so my, like, Shay is my internet stranger danger name from back in the 90s when the internet came about. Like, that's not my, like, name on Facebook, my actual, that's not my birth name. And I used that as an example. I was like, I don't use my real name on, like, Instagram and all that stuff. I'm not hard to find. It's not hard to find my real name. But, like, I'm like, I don't, I was like, it's literally no different than the fact that I go by Shay on the internet. Literally no different,
I mean, I
in
get
my
that.
opinion.
And now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like maybe I should have done something like that back in the day, but I didn't.
Yeah,
I
no.
mean, I was known for the longest time on Instagram and in a lot of different groups, Flame and Hufflepuff. So only because my airsoft name when I went airsofting, I was given Flame and Rainbow because I'm
That's
the
fair.
idiot who the first night we went airsofting wore the brightest orange shirt ever.
I feel like I can see that. The short time
And
I've known you, I feel like I can see that.
I didn't know we were going airsofting. I got dragged along and it was laundry day. I hate that shirt. It was given to me by a friend for helping out. One, it's a South Pole shirt. Do I look like a type of person that would wear South Pole?
No, not
Two,
really.
it was
Yep.
fluorescent orange and like was tie-dye-y. And South
Okay.
Pole was stoned on the front in orange stones.
Oh gosh.
Every time I wore it, I looked like a
Oh my
pedophile.
god. Oh my
I
god,
thought
stop.
every photo I have of me in it, I look like a pedo. And I hate that shirt. So I was
Now I
so
want to
bad.
see one of those photos.
Listen, I will find them and I will send them.
Yeah, no, I need to, yeah.
Listen, they're bad. Like, they're bad. Oh my god, I will do that in a moment. I don't even want to look at it right now. But when we went, so someone gave me their black hoodie to wear. And because in one spot when I laid down, the shirt came up, you could see my white stomach was the perfect like bullseye point for everybody. After one person shot, three people shot all at the same time. No one knew the others were shooting. They all shot at the same spot. So I had four airsoft pellets hitting me in the same spot.
Oh gosh.
Hence why they called me Flame and Rainbow.
That's fair.
But because I know some of y'all highlight and stuff like that, I was just curious any quotes that stand out, or if this was a book that quotes really weren't necessary.
Let me find my Kindle. Hold on.
Think
I was like,
I have any.
I don't have any, but
Yeah, no.
it's rare that I save a quote. So
Yeah, I don't have any. There was definitely a couple that I saw when I was reading because I read it kind of on Kindle and physically. I did definitely see some that some people highlighted where it's like on Kindle where it's like popular things were highlighted. But like none of those really were like, oh my god, I should highlight that too.
I figured this was mainly a Lori question because I know you tab and you do all that stuff. So I was like, I didn't know if you had any that stood out.
I'm not seeing any.
Figured this would also be a good question for future books because you guys tab more than I do.
So I have three. They were kind of from the beginning of the book mostly. The very first one is a headache, and I was like, listen. That was just because it was funny. I have this.
No, I don't have any. I was looking. I didn't really quote. I didn't really tab a lot. You can tell when I like something and don't. Because I hardly have any tabs.
Yeah.
See it. And then I have like fucking around with which I just started and I have so many tabs.
And that's where me and Hope are like, yes.
Yeah, I'm already tabbing the heck out of it.
I'm like, it's because of Hope that I even read Pucking Around. So
And I
Which
just
the
finished another book where basically the whole thing is like.
But I figured this would be a question that I would keep for all future live shows of because I know people tab.
No, that's a good one.
Um,
One thing I thought was funny, and maybe this is just because I'm not like a Leo DiCaprio fan, but I'm sorry, Your Awakening was Leo DiCaprio and Romeo and Juliet.
oh my god.
We watched Romeo.
I can tell you my gay awakening before I didn't know it was my gay awakening at the time that it happened. But Billy from the Power Rangers,
Okay,
I
I can see
wanted
that.
to be him. I wanted to be his best friend. I wanted us to go places together. I wanted us to live together as a child. But the first time I can actually say I looked at a guy on a show or something that I was like, ooh, was the TV show Summerland, where
Oh yeah, you were talking about that before.
you were either team Zac Efron or team Jesse McCartney, and I was team both. How did my mother not know when I had one wall covered with Zac Efron posters and the other one covered with Jesse McCartney posters that I got from Tiger Beat magazines?
Okay, Tiger Beat magazine alone. But anyways,
Hello? Hello! That, and I was so hardcore team Pacey in Dawson's Creek, and so
oh, Dawson's
hardcore
Creek.
team Jess in Gilmore Girls.
Mm-hmm.
And so anti Mr. Big in Sex in the City. I was like so animate talking to people about how Mr. Big was a horrible person. How did you not know?
Listen, anybody who is Team Dean and Gilmore Girls, toxic. I will end a friendship right there. You cannot tell. Like, no, absolutely not.
Agreed.
Like the whole, revisiting the relationship and stuff when he was with, like, sure, whatever. Everybody goes through that point. No, I just mean like the character development of it. Everybody does that. Well, not everybody, but a majority of people, they go back to their, one of their teenage loves. There's always that second chance romance, I guess, would be the trope in a way. But like, no, if you thought they were end game, nope, I will end a relationship. That's toxic behavior.
Same. Okay, so did this book remind you of any other books? I didn't think this one probably doesn't, but I know some people who might connect. It's like, oh, if you like this, you might like this.
I'm gonna definitely say no because adult LGBTQ books are still new for me. Like I've been through tons of YA, but I'm trying to every once in a while YA books give me the ick. So
yeah, I don't think so.
No.
Would you reread for those of us who are not Hope?
No, I wouldn't reread.
So
Neither would I.
when I reread books, I usually reread them as audio. And to be honest, and this is nothing against the writing or anything. The book itself is fine. The production of the audiobook, hated. The narrator himself, totally fine, loved him. It was, I don't know. I think you'd have to listen to it to hear what I'm trying to say, but just however his recording studio is, I was not a fan of. And it made it really hard. But I made it through because sitting down and eyeball reading a book is so hard for me right now. But no, I don't think I'd reread it, probably because of that alone.
I am gonna force Sterling to read it, so because I was trying to ask him, are these good questions? It's like I can't ask you because I want you to read this book one day. Because I want to know if you think it's good. Whether or not I ended up liking it or not, I need to know his thoughts now.
I liked it, but I didn't love it. It was a 3.
It was a book. Yeah.
It was a book.
I don't feel like I wasted my time reading this book, but I don't think I'll revisit it.
I wouldn't keep it. It's not a book I'm going to keep on my shelf.
I was thinking about buying the physical copy for like the live and book club, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of happy I did it.
I will
Just because
say
it
we
would
have,
be one I would regift.
I
But
will
I'm
say
sure a lot of people love it.
Yeah.
the rest of the books this year, I know for a fact, are at least bangers. So
I already
we're
read
good
the.
there. This was the only one that I was unsure. Now,
No.
next year's picks, I am really unsure about every one of them because we're doing so far all the books that I have picked out. I have not read any of them, and I'm excited.
No, it's like with this book, we've learned maybe don't trust my recommendations when I just make them randomly out of the blue.
I mean, I should have known going into this that it would have. Oh, okay. Here's the book we can kind of connect it a little bit to. This is gonna be very vague, Hope, but Foxhole Court,
Yeah, I've never read
I
Yeah.
haven't read it yet.
just with
I
like the
haven't.
darkness of it. Granted, Foxhole Court, 1,000 times better,
Yes.
but that's like the only thing I could think is.
Those are the
You
white and
know
orange
who and you
covers,
know who.
right? They're kind of like sportsy.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's you know who and you know who and you know why. I say you know who and you know who.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say because no one's read
Mm-hmm.
If you want to.
it. Is the biggest. Just be warned: if you do not like slow burn, do not read it.
Oh,
It is the only slow burn that I am on board for 100%.
It is the when I mean it is slow burn. We get one kiss in book 3,
And that's it.
and that is it. But the way that they do it, it makes sense, and it is. Ugh. But okay, would you read another book by this author?
I mean, I can just hold up another one of the author's books and say yes, because I've read it.
I mean, probably.
I'd give them another shot.
I am
Yeah,
a little curious
okay.
about the marshmallow book.
Yeah,
So
this is the first one by them, so I'd like to see like the growth.
Yeah, how they grow. Yeah, how they grow.
I think the rest of the books that they've published so far have been, well, there's the novella that's with Not Quite Out, like that's basically like a follow-up, and then I think it's just like short stories right now. I think.
as long as when she pulls out another book, it has nothing to do with this world, I'm down.
Mm,
Well,
yes,
I
that's
know
fair.
that at one point they were trying to get a different book published, but I don't think that went anywhere. And that one I did get to read the first like 2 or 3 chapters as like a beta reader, and definitely improved in the writing a bit. Not a
Just-
lot, but like a little bit.
Just because I could feel like this author would probably write a Cassie Lily book, and I don't think I'm that interested.
Yeah.
That was a short
That's
story.
fine.
Okay, as a short story, I can do that.
I read that because I got to beta read that for the author. So it's also a thing of I'm a little biased because I like kind of have a connection with the author because like
I'm trying to remember if it's this author that said she had a whole bunch of different endings, that how different ways that the book was going to be, how she was going to do the characters. There was different. But I can't remember if it was in this, if it mentioned it in here, or if it was online, like an interview that I read.
Well, I just skimmed through a bunch of interviews earlier, and I didn't see anything mentioned about. I'm trying to remember
Okay.
some of them.
Would you recommend this book to others
Hmm.
outside of Hope?
Maybe if I knew they were going through a similar situation.
Right yet.
If I might recommend it as an introduction for like beginners for like queer
Yeah,
literature,
that's
if you
it.
want.
In the book towards the end, she says something about like I always where was it? Sometimes I wrote for Dave,
Oh, excuse me.
sometimes Will and Willie had a child, stuff like that. She put down.
Yeah. Now,
That's solid.
I would recommend this for those who want to dip their toes into dark romance as like an introduction.
It is dark, but it's not dark.
Yeah, so it's like, to me, this is like, oh, this is kind of that flowery one step beforehand.
Oh yeah, I've read
And then
Toxic.
before they dive into stuff like Addie LaRue. Not Addie LaRue, what the hell?
Addie LaRue, what?
You know what I'm talking about. Haunting of
Line.
Adeline. What the hell, Addie LaRue? I was watching Victoria Schwab interviews earlier. Okay, listen. But before diving into stuff like that, or like or something destruction. That's in the other room. Damn it. Whatever.
I know which one you're talking about.
Inevitable destruction. There we go.
Yeah.
But like, this would be like, if you want to try out dark romance and see if a dark topic is for you, I might go, hey, it's not the best representation of it, but see if reading a book with those topics in it
That's
are
fair. It
okay
would
for
be,
you.
yeah, because it is still pretty closed door about a lot of it. So that's
Yeah.
fair.
Very close.
Yeah, it's like dipping your toe in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before our last two questions, we have any lingering thoughts, questions on the book that we have not discussed?
What's everybody's ratings now?
Well, we'll get to that.
Oh, that was okay.
That's the next one.
You're jumping a little too ahead.
The last three are going to be for like all the books, so it's like any lingering thoughts that we haven't discussed.
I don't really think so.
I don't.
Same here.
No, don't.
Okay, so then we'll go to here. What did everybody finally rate it as?
I mean, mine is still the same as before.
Mine's
A 4.
Mine's a 3.
It's probably a 3. I wasn't like a super huge fan of it, but I don't wish I had that time back reading it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to agree with everything everybody said, but I'm going to give it a 2.5. And I will round it up to a 3 on Goodreads.
I'm just happy nobody DNF'd it or gave it a 1. I call that a win.
And honestly, Hope, this is the first time a book that you've recommended to me got a rating like that from me.
Yeah.
I'm like physically incapable of DNFing books, so I will literally suffer through.
My whole motto is DNF. There are so many other better books in that world. If it is not working for you, get out of that world and jump into one that will.
I think part of the reason why I don't is because I've had books where I was just absolutely miserable. I could not stand it. But then there was like the twist happened, and then I was like here for it. Like from the twist on, it was just everything. Hi.
Hi. That's good.
I know I need to go check on my husband soon. He's sick, so.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah. It's kind of long-term stuff that we're in limbo about, but we'll get through.
Oh my god, that scared the hell out of me. I wasn't even looking at my screen. We were talking and my eyes were down. I didn't even feel him even open up that door.
Amazing. I thought you were just excited, not surprised.
Oh no, that was my heart went through my throat. And I was like, what the hell? Because I felt his step behind me.
Yeah.
right before he touched me. And it was like so instantaneous that I couldn't look behind me. He didn't text me saying that he was cooking or not. What the heck? Okay. But so, yes, 2.5. And then our final question is this a good representation of queer lit? Which we chose this for a Mel, but also for like By Awakening.
I
I'm
would
not
say
buying
it's
anything, but I
okay.
think so. Yeah.
Like,
I
it's
feel
not
like it's
bad, but it's not like, oh
I
my
feel like
gosh, this is
it's
amazing.
not a I feel like it's not a full thumbs down. It's like somewhere like right here. It's not
Yeah.
quite in the middle, but it's like it's like at a
Yeah, it's like,
45-degree angle.
Yeah,
The author was trying to tackle two really big issues that are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum. So it's hard. It's not like a full queer lit because of that, I feel like. But, if you're someone who likes, like L. Hopkins books, or at least a little more contemporary version of like an L. Hopkins book, but you happen to be queer or at least trying to find out if you're like, sure, it's, but not like a full, we're not talking like Green Creek or Heartstopper or, what was your other fave that you said on the video? The pink one,
Oh,
right?
red,
Isn't
white,
it
and
pink?
royal blue.
Yes, yes. I say that like I haven't read the book 3 times and watched the movie twice.
Yeah, good.
Oh, you've only watched the movie twice? I can't tell you how many times I've seen the movie now. Listen.
And the second time was literally just for background noise. But I did pay attention wholeheartedly when I watched it the first time.
The amount of times that I have watched that movie while I'm at work just to put it on.
Oh, those two
Yeah.
guys. I was so
Clint,
nervous about that book, that movie at first. I was so afraid, but I really loved the two guys.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Clint, I
My
think
mom
you'd be a
loved-
bit disappointed in me since I think I've only watched it like
Oh.
3 times.
I thought you were about to say you didn't like it, and I was going to be like, hold on.
No, I
I
loved
thought
it.
she was about to tell me she hadn't seen it.
No, I've
Oh,
seen it only
God.
like, I think it was like 3 times, I think.
Okay. I don't watch a lot, to be honest, because I spend so much time with audiobooks. Like I try to balance my time. I used to try to balance. I used to try to balance my time. But I'll put it this way: my Storygraph reading streak is at like 64 days, which is probably pretty close to accurate on when the last time I watched like binged a show. Like I watch wrestling with my husband every week, and then we watch Gordon Ramsay shows, and like that's it. The last time I actually binged a show was probably 64 days ago.
I don't watch TV or anything, so I'm boring. I just read and watch YouTube.
I watch a lot. I consume stories in all its form. Listen from music to musicals to television shows to movies to books to comics to mangas. If it is telling me a story, I am going to consume it.
Like I go through, like I usually rotate. I'll usually have like one really good reading month, and then the following month it's all about binging stuff, and I'm reading maybe like 3 pages a day. But lately it's been all books.
I mean, this month in itself, I went 2 weeks without finishing a book. So
I mean,
That's fair,
this month
Mr.
for
Gossip
reading,
Girl.
this is the first book I finished, and I started it yesterday because I needed to read it for the live. So apparently, I just need to give myself really strict deadlines and not have to work a lot.
as long as you read the group books, I don't care.
Exactly. I mean, worst case scenario, if I didn't read it, I would have just been pulling stuff out of memory and praying that it's right.
That's fair.
But also, hi Dana.
Hi, Dana.
Hi.
Hi.
We had a blast.
Oh yeah.
It was fun.
But also, don't forget to join us next month, everybody. Not that we're like leaving like right away, but next month we will be reading Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. I figured starting out with a Mel and then going into some sapphic
Yes.
love would be perfect. I also need to finish the series, so
Reread
this
the
will push me to read Astrid and Iris
yeah.
in November. So
And since I have a new copy, I can re-annotate it.
I think my copy's in the living room.
and we will be joined, I know, by Sam from Sam's Bookish Faves will join us for this one, which I think is going to be so much fun. But so any last thoughts before we head out?
I don't think so. Besides, I really enjoyed this discussion.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked it.
I like the fact of having 4 people on screen.
Yeah. I feel
So
like
even
this is I feel like this is the most in-depth I've ever gone for a live show. At least like in the near past. Like
I had a lot of fun.
I'm glad. I'm happy that having the 4 of us on screen, having the 3 of us, and then someone new each month, I think will make this so much fun for lively discussions. And like we were the only ones here discussing this, so it made it more fun having at least 4 of us here discussing, and not just me and Hope sitting here going, "Yeah, we liked the book."
yeah.
Um, us with what was it? The new guy.
Oh god, don't talk to me about that live.
Where we were just like, "Hi, yeah, it was a good book. We liked it. Do we have any thoughts on it? Not really. It's just it was a basic book. We liked it." Which I feel like we're going to get that way with some of these being rom-coms and stuff like that, but I'm going to try to at least get the questions to like get us talking about something.
Mhm.
So yeah. Thank you everybody for joining us.
It's always
Thank
fun.
you, Shay, for joining
Thank
us for our
you.
first
Bye.
one. And thank you, Lori, for joining me and Hope
Thank you
as
for
an
inviting me.
Urban host.
I love it.
This was a blast. I am happy that we finally read Not Quite Out, and we can put old Ba down and enjoy new Ba.
Yep.
It made sense in my head. But
Yes.
if we don't have anything else to discuss on this,
No.
thank you, everybody. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new, hit that subscribe. Everybody is linked down below. Go check out all their channels, Instagram, everything. I have everything down below and all the thoughts. And if you're interested in what this book is, I do have the Goodreads linked down below as well. I would link Amazon's, but their link is like almost 2 pages long for some of their books. And I was like, not going to do that. But that's all we've got for you guys. Just remember to always embrace your inner rainbow and have a fabulous day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
End broadcast. End broadcast.